Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 99 of the Let's Talk Yoga podcast. Before we get into today's conversation, I wanted to get a couple of updates and announcements out of the way first. Kicking this off is my annual Pranayama immersion and teacher training program is back this November. As you're listening to this, the waitlist is open. Just go to the first link you see in the podcast description and get on the email list for this program. I know some of you have been emailing me and Instagramming me and asking me when this program is starting in 2022. I will be dropping all the details in about 2 weeks, but make sure you get on the email list because you'll be the first to hear about the training dates, the schedule, get sneak peek content and much more. So just go sign up with the link that says Pranayama waitlist and you should be on that list and get updates starting literally next week. Okay. Now, the second update is the Mindful Yoga Teachers Club is your monthly mentorship community that I have been hosting now for over a year for yoga teachers like you. And I'm going to be making a couple of tweaks for this one in the months ahead. So the members who have been attending are really regular. If people can't attend live, they catch the replay. We'll be adding monthly reading to it, like blog posts and reflection exercises starting this coming month. So if you are curious and you want to be mentored, I want to clarify that a mentor is very different from a business coach. Okay. So I'm not a business coach. I'm more of a mentor. And if you wanted to sign up for the live calls and also get access to the year-long recording, when you sign up, you get the entire year's recordings, the previous ones too, not just the current month. So if this sounds interesting to you, make sure you check that out. Everything is available at letstalk.yoga and it's called the Mindful Yoga Teachers Club. And it is literally, you start at $16 a month and you can cancel anytime. And then lastly, a big thank you to everyone who took an extra moment to leave this podcast a review of late. It's really what moves the needle for us. It helps keep the podcast ad-free, sponsor-free, and we can continue to focus on really high-quality yoga content so your focus isn't interrupted and your listening experience is seamless. So that's it for now. I'm super excited about the pranayama training that is going to drop in the months ahead, but let's get on with today's show. Hi, my name is Arundhati and you're listening to the Let's Talk Yoga podcast. I'm an ex-Bollywood dancer turned yoga and wellness educator. I've built a 6-figure business as an immigrant, woman of color yoga teacher with no business background, no handstands, pure instinct, and the free information found on Google. If you love doing yoga and you dream of teaching it someday, this podcast is for you. We go over everything from doing and teaching yoga to scaling a small business, living a modern yoga lifestyle, and so much more. You'll find interesting, fun, raw conversations along with some tips, tricks, strategies, and insights in this podcast. So grab your cup of chai and let's jump in. In today's solo episode, I wanted to break down and bring clarity to you about 3 main aspects of being a yoga teacher. Firstly, let's talk about what you should know as a yoga teacher teaching yoga. Secondly, what should you learn as a yoga teacher? Lastly, what should you teach as a yoga teacher? Now, while this may sound simplistic, there's much more. I talk to a lot of yoga teachers through the Mindful Yoga Teachers Club, through Instagram, through email, and a lot of them have questions about what to learn, what to teach. So hopefully this will bring you some amount of clarity as well as confidence in what you are probably already doing. The intention was to just remove confusion about what and how to learn, adding basic structure to your yoga learning and will definitely impact your teaching journey. It will give you clarity. Clarity will lead to compassion in teaching. And I think that is very important. Okay. And compassion leads to confidence in teaching. It's all interconnected. I'm going to say that one more time. Clarity will lead to compassion in teaching. Compassion leads to confidence in teaching. Okay. So that's kind of hopefully what this episode will bring you. So let's start with part 1. What should you know as a yoga teacher teaching yoga. Okay, I've made a small list for you. This list is in no particular order. Okay, and at different points in time, certain things will be more relevant to you. So as a yoga teacher, firstly, you should have a basic understanding of the layout of yoga. I'm going to say that again. As a yoga teacher, you should have a basic understanding of the layout of yoga. Okay. Now let's explore that a little more. When you have a fuller, complete view of yoga beyond just, yoga being physical well-being and fitness, there are two things that come to mind here for me. Okay. You want an understanding of the kosha model of human existence. The Pancha Kosha model of human existence. This was spoken about in episode 74 briefly with Indu Arora. And if you still want more clarity about the Kosha model, I can do a separate episode. Just let me know, email me or find me on Instagram and let me know. The Kosha model is so significant to understanding how yoga is structured. And it's very relevant to modern day yoga practitioners, which is why I think it is very important. It's a quality of the energetic body, the pranic body, and the Pancha Koshas are the 5 sheets of our existence or the 5 layers of our existence. Okay. So hopefully you are already familiar with the kosha model. If not, take some time to learn about the Pancha Koshas, and that will help you understand the basic layout of yoga. The second way to understand the basic layout of yoga is to get an overview of Maharishi Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, or the 8 limbs of yoga. Okay. This has been covered multiple times on the podcast, right from episode 85 and 47 and so many more. We've got multiple episodes that talk about the 8 limbs of yoga, so make sure you explore that. Moving on, you want to have a good grasp of asanas. This will be totally subjective based on what stage of asana evolvement you're in, what your previous yoga education has been like, the teachers who influence your impression of yoga, and not to forget your own personal biases and preferences that are always at play. Just remember, the kind of yoga you have been exposed to or what is available in your area is what you will think is yoga for the most part. Okay. But whatever style or form of yoga you do, you should have a basic understanding of the fundamentals. The fundamentals that will help keep your body strong and make you capable of optimal functioning of day-to-day activities. Okay. I don't want you to think of yoga as basic or advanced, but more in terms of, is this a type of yoga or a style of yoga that you're capable of doing as you age? Okay. Is it an investment in your future? Is this sustainable for you and your students? Can you do the same things you're doing today, or what you're doing today, will that add up to something more essential or greater in your later years, say 30 years from now? So keep that in mind, because I think that is really significant and something that a lot of popular yoga misses on, that our yoga should age with us, and that's how yoga has been structured, that's how asana has been structured. So make sure you are exposing yourself to that. So the first point was basic layout of yoga. Second point was a good grasp of the asanas. When I speak about asanas, I'm including the breathing in the asanas. Okay. I'm assuming you know how to explain breath to a student, you know how to layer that into practice. But if you would like me to do an episode on breathing in asana and how to teach it in the most simple, easy and effective way, just make sure once again you hit me up on Instagram or my email, which is connect@letstalk.yoga. So moving on. We did an episode, I believe it was episode 66, where we spoke about the 4 paths of yoga. Okay. And we did this with Uma Subramaniam. I really encourage you to listen to that. You should be knowing more than styles of yoga. You should be understanding the 4 different margas or paths of yoga. Okay. And this is really crucial for us to understand. So that's episode 66. Okay. Episode 80 talks about the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita with Vikramjit Singh. He beautifully elaborates on the similarities as well as the differences between these two ancient scriptures and what we as yoga teachers should know when it comes to understanding how they are similar but also how they are apart. I highly recommend you listen to episode 80 to get an idea of that. Okay. Lastly, you need to know how yoga was traditionally taught. And we've covered this over many different episodes. In fact, I can't even list how many times this has come up. It starts right at episode 1, where I tell you about my journey and the differences between yoga in India and the US. But also you have to have a clear understanding, or at least some understanding, about the cultural significance and implications of your actions when it comes to yoga. To me, this is a non-negotiable because yoga is a cultural heritage. It is a cultural practice to millions of people. So I already know I am speaking to an audience that resonates with this and does this already. But just know that knowing it and being able to speak to it in some capacity will be very beneficial. Okay, it'll build your confidence as a yoga teacher. It'll help you stay in the game a lot longer. Okay. And then a couple of side notes here, just knowing that everybody's yoga will look different and that you want to be a yoga teacher who should be able to teach to different capabilities over time. Okay, you can't do this all in a short span of time. We evolve as yoga teachers, and just remember to take more time to learn and don't get obsessed with just teaching alone. Okay, so that's my first segment, what you should know as a yoga teacher. Okay, basic layout of yoga, a good grasp of asanas, how to breathe in these asanas, basic idea of the 4 paths of yoga, the differences between Patanjali's Yoga Sutra and the Bhagavad Gita, how yoga was traditionally transmitted, and the cultural significance, implications, and appropriation conversations. Okay. And also one quick note here, when I talk about asanas, I'm including restorative asanas in there. I'm including aspects of meditation in there, just in case you are wondering. Okay, so let's move to segment 2. What should you learn? To be honest, it's very easy for me to make a list of the things you need to learn. Okay, but I don't want to limit you. Okay, instead, I want to give you a structure that will help you in the long run. So firstly, you want to learn from a credible source who highlights authenticity of yoga, the timeless wisdom of yoga, and makes you more of a reflective yoga teacher. I've said this time and time and time again on the podcast. I bring it up again and again because I think it is so crucial. Okay, you want someone who's learning from credible resources themselves and can also prove it to you. And you also want to be aware of yoga teachers who are trending on current topics and who are riding the Instagram algorithm and really selling you new agey yoga marketing stuff. Okay, stuff that sounds like yoga but honestly is not yoga. Okay. I'm going to, in the remaining part of this segment, reference the kosha model to help build your understanding of what you should learn. Okay. So there are 5 koshas, right? Pancha koshas. Okay. The first kosha is Annamaya kosha. So you want to learn asanas and other practices that will give you optimal physical well-being. I'm going to say that again. For the Annamaya kosha, you want to learn asanas and other yoga practices like the kriyas, for example, which will give you optimal physical well-being. Food is an integral part of this layer, but it is beyond my scope, so I'm not going to be talking about food as much. But you want to learn asanas. When I say learn asanas, I'm talking about different types of asanas. Asanas that you could teach to a 90-year-old, asanas that you can teach to a 10-year-old, asanas that you can do if somebody is injured or tired or is pregnant, learning how to use props, exposing yourself to different styles of yoga, different schools of yoga, different lineages of yoga. Okay, so there is a lot to explore here. So learn for the health and well-being of your Annamaya kosha. The next kosha is Pranamaya kosha, okay, which is the pranic layer or the pranic sheath, often in English referred to as the energetic body or the energetic kosha. You want to learn basic breath attention and awareness practices, as well as some basic pranayama that will help keep your body and your mind in optimal functioning. Notice how I'm saying basic pranayama. You don't need to learn every pranayama technique out there. It's not about learning more. It's about applying what you learn and applying it deeply. Okay, and I'll be talking more about pranayama in the months ahead. So I'm going to move on to the third part. The third layer, the third kosha, is Manomaya Kosha, the mental sheath. You want to learn some basic contemplative practices. Okay. Now, I'm pretty sure you already are thinking of meditation or dhyana. The word for meditation in Sanskrit is dhyana. Okay. So some form of basic guided or unguided meditation. You could also add some things like restorative yoga in here if meditation is not an option for you, or yoga nidra. Okay, but essentially something that is very soothing and calming for the mind. Okay, Manomaya Kosha. And then the fourth sheath is called the Vijnanamaya Kosha. Okay, the wisdom sheath. Here you want to learn and develop an understanding and practice the yamas and niyamas. The yamas and niyamas of the 8 limbs of yoga. We've done episodes with Savira Gupta. I believe part 1 was episode 47. I can't remember part 2, but it's all there if you look for Savira Gupta in our podcast list. So learn and practice the yamas and niyamas for your Vijnanamaya Kosha. And another way you can stay connected to this is to consult with your mentor teacher often. Okay. Again, not a business coach, because that is a big difference in how you view yoga, but a teacher who constantly reminds you of the essence of yoga and who constantly helps you stay on the path of teaching yoga in a certain way and helps you course correct and problem solve. So practicing that, there is of course things like the Bhagavad Gita that you can also learn here. I like to always go back to the yamas and niyamas because it is simple and it is deeply profound, and it should be able to help you for a lifetime if applied well. Okay. And then the last layer is called the Anandamaya Kosha, the blissful sheath. And all I have to say here is, whenever possible, try to live in Ananda. Try to live in bliss. Okay. It is so challenging sometimes for us yoga teachers to focus on just our own inner peace. Okay. And I remember once a yoga studio owner, she ran a chain of yoga studios for like 25 years. And we met on Zoom during the pandemic. And she said something that sticks with me till date. She said, "You look very happy for a yoga studio owner. Most yoga teachers are unhappy." And that made me really sad. Okay, really sad, because when we live in our bliss and when we practice our yama, niyamas and everything else, it is truly possible for us to bring that bliss to those around us. And that's how your students will connect with you, when you carry that inner energetic prana and that just flows out through you. So whenever possible, try to live in your ananda. And then lastly, what should you teach? Okay, this is the final segment of today's conversation. What should you teach? I made a small list, something that will make you reflect. Teach only that which you have experienced fully. Teach only that which you have experienced fully. For example, take a asana that you can do well and then think of one that is work in progress. So teach the asana that you can do really, really, really well and keep working on what is work in progress. Okay? And teach only up to what you have experienced. Don't ever pretend to know something, because that's just, again, satya, the truth in practice is applicable at all times. Only teach that in which you have full clarity. Only teach that in which you have full clarity. For example, let's think about pranayama. Teach only practices that you know really well, or don't teach it at all. Okay, if you don't have the necessary clarity, go get credible yoga education, practice it, develop an understanding. This will be so deeply fulfilling for you and will have greater impact for your students and will really help you in the long term. Pass the 2 a.m. test. Now, what is the 2 a.m. test? Honestly, this is something I have made up. I always tell my students, I also tell my dance students this, that if for some reason I called you or woke you up at 2 a.m. and I asked you this question, would you be able to answer it in utmost clarity? So if I asked you how to get the distance right between your hands and feet in Adho Mukha Svanasana, would you be able to? If I asked you to explain Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, would you be able to? So you want to know all this information that you are learning as knowledge in your body, in your bones. And over time, when you keep applying this, thinking about it, letting it marinate, introspecting, the knowledge will at some point become wisdom. And I should add that you need to be with a teacher to really move knowledge to wisdom. So make sure you pass the 2 a.m. test for yourself. And teach only that which you can repeat in any circumstance. Okay? You don't want to teach something as a one-off thing. Can you teach the same thing over and over and over again? Why? Because that will bring you more clarity. They say, I don't know who said this, but I've heard it. They say to teach is to learn twice. Okay, I say to teach is to learn 100 times. Every single year when I do, say, trainings, I get better at it. Or when I teach the same asana over the years, I get better at it. So make sure you can repeat it in any circumstance. Okay. Then the next part is about teaching a student. Teach only that which is relatable and relevant in some capacity to your student. You should be able to see some tangible impact in some form, whether it's a minute one or a very obvious one. Teach only that which is relevant and relatable, and prepare them for other deeper practices over time. Okay. Make sure that you have learned everything from an authentic source, because a lot of yoga out there on the internet isn't really yoga. And I know you resonate with that, which is why you're listening to this podcast. And then lastly, teach that which elevates one's well-being in some capacity and also brings you a sense of service and satisfaction. Okay. So that's my very short list of what you should know as a yoga teacher, what you should learn as a yoga teacher, and what you should teach as a yoga teacher. I hope, as always, that you find these conversations impactful and help you bring more clarity and confidence to your yoga journey. I will be back next week with episode 100. I never thought we would get here, but we'll be here next week. Okay. Until then, remember to get on the Pranayama Yoga Teacher Training waitlist. The Mindful Yoga Teachers Club information is in the podcast description as well. I will see you soon. Until then, enjoy your practice. Take care. Bye-bye.